welcome to Info Hub Recap, where we focus on the top issues for the past week. In our headlines, GPEX 2018 opened. Heads of PSC and Go Invest condemn anti-investment advertisement placed in 2 newspapers. Ombudsman hears 112 complaints so far, and redundant sugar workers to begin contractual work with Guyana. Stay tuned for the details of these and more.
The future of Guyana has never looked better. Our nation is on the cusp of a development program like never seen before. While Guyana is now emerging as an energy giant through the discovery of massive reserves of oil and natural gas, it is your government's intention that the huge benefits emerging from this will go where it matters most, to you, the people of this beloved country. There is a surge of confidence in the way Guyana is governed once again, and the level of investor interest is unprecedented. Guyana is poised to become the breadbasket of the region, and the pace at which this nation will grow through prudent fiscal management will be nothing short of impressive. But more than anything else will be the way every Guyanese, regardless of color, class, or creed, becomes a part of this historic period of national transformation, sharing in the wealth and well-being of it all as one Guyana.
And now for the details. The inaugural Guyana Petroleum Business Summit and Exhibition, GPEX 2018, opened on Wednesday at the Marriott Hotel. Tiffany Rodius was there.
Over the next 3 days, local businesses will be interacting with some of the biggest names in the energy industry. Go Invest Chair Patricia Backus is urging investors to maximize on the immense opportunities available in Guyana's emerging oil and gas industry.
I would urge all the participants to view the gaps in our economic activities not as shortcomings, but instead as opportunities. GPEX provides a forum through which the emerging oil and gas sector can be carefully explored with a view to determining the various economic opportunities along the value chain that are ripe for investment.
As Guyana continues its projection towards oil production in 2020, Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman is assuring that the country will not be known just for oil.
We don't want simply to be known as an oil-producing nation, but rather as a country that took its resources and revenues and used them to fashion and carve a nation that is geographically and strategically positioned to produce the food that is required and will be required for the 48 million people who are projected to inhabit the Caribbean by 2050.
ExxonMobil, Chevron, Schlumberger, Halliburton are some of the big-name energy companies that will be sharing their experiences and participating in exhibitions over the next 3 days. For InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
The government of Guyana has adopted a fast-paced but careful approach as it relates to putting the necessary mechanisms in place to facilitate the emerging oil and gas sector, which will come fully on stream in the year 2020. Here are details from Stacey Carmichael.
Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman, speaking on the sidelines of GPEX 2018, said that the government of Guyana, through the Civil Defense Commission, has a national plan in place in the event of an oil spill. Minister Trotman said that all government agencies and ministries are working together to ensure that Guyana gets it right for 2020.
There's the fiscal and taxation side of it, which is the responsibility of the Minister of Finance. He's working overtime. I know with his staff, both at the Ministry, GRA, Bureau of Statistics, they're working to boost capacity, and we're getting support.
The Natural Resources Ministry recently completed an overhaul of the 1986 Petroleum Act and has worked along with the Finance Ministry to draft the Natural Resource Fund Bill or the Sovereign Wealth Fund Bill, which will be tabled later this year. In 2017, the Petroleum Commission of Guyana was taken to the National Assembly. However, Minister Trotman informed that the bill is being held back to facilitate some changes.
Cabinet has given me the approval to come back to make some changes, to make it more inclusive. It's a national asset, not to be seen in a partisan way. And even though the intention is not for us to control, we don't want that accusation to be made or for it to permeate, because this is a national resource.
Meanwhile, the minister has expressed his elation with the response to GPEX 2018, particularly with the participation of the major oil companies from around the world. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
The heads of the Private Sector Commission and Go Invest condemned a recent anti-investment advertisement placed in Kaicher News and Stabroek News.
The Private Sector Commission as the umbrella body, could never support any company or newspaper publishing something that is detrimental to the national interest of investment. We could never, ever, ever be part of something like that. And as far as I'm concerned, whoever has placed that ad is anti-national, whether be it a local business or a foreign business, they're anti-national. And it's very disturbing because the amount of investors we got in the country today, we are very, very, very concerned when you get that kind of negativity. Whoever feels that that is the way Guyanese businesses and organizations are thinking, they're absolutely wrong.
I think that is very anti-nationalistic and anti-patriotic. I would say that anyone who has a different opinion in any decision or any opinion or any stance of anyone, it should always start with negotiation, it should always start with a discussion. We can talk. There's always a procedure by which people explore before they go to any extreme option. If someone had a grievance, I think there are obviously channels.
As Guyana awaits the ICJ's decision on the Ghana border controversy, Minister of Foreign Affairs Carl Grenade says Cabinet will be pronouncing on the United Nations Secretary General's decision to refer the matter to the International Court. Tiffany joins us again.
The immediate work has already begun. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and its advisory team and its lawyers met all day yesterday into the evening, and they mapped out the broad, let us say, options, the issues that needed immediate attention, and those for which the Cabinet has to give policy guidance.
Minister Greenwich reinforced that the International Court of Justice must pronounce on what is essentially a legal contention raised by Venezuela.
We are not setting out in the court to get the court to go now and mark boundaries. That's not the issue. The issue is simply an allegation made by Venezuela in 1962 that a treaty that they had honored for 61 years is null and void.
The United Nations Secretary General handed down his decision last week. For Guyana, the decision marks the ending of a decades-old controversy. However, Venezuela has criticized the decision, stating only the 1966 Geneva Agreement can reach a peaceful solution. Guyana maintains that it has exhausted the means of settlements provided in the Geneva Agreement. Minister Greenwich added a pronouncement from the ICJ would be comforting for Guyana since treaties are internationally fashioned. For InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
Meanwhile, on the sidelines of the GPEX meeting, Ambassador Sir Sridhat Ramphal encouraged Guyanese not to be misguided by wild opinions with regards to the Venezuela border controversy. Here's that report.
Distinguished diplomat Sir Sridhat Ramphal says any decision handed down by the International Court of Justice on the controversy between Guyana and Venezuela will be binding.
Unfortunately, some pretty wild things have been said in Guyana, which are far from legally accurate. And this is totally different from the advisory positions that are possible under the Charter. This is not an advisory opinion.
Sir Ramphal noted that the 1966 Geneva Agreement was signed under the context that the United Nations Secretary General had the right to choose the World Court as recourse to settle the controversy. He also warned Guyanese not to be misguided by, quote, wild opinions.
This is not a time for Guyana to argue these issues with Guyana.
Guyana is currently preparing to defend its territorial integrity at the ICJ against Venezuelans' claim that the 1988 arbitral award is null and void. For InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
InfoHub's Paul McAdam joined us from the Caribbean Development Bank's annual conference being held in Barbados. He spoke to Economics Director of the CDB, Dr. Justin Ram, on Guyana's improved projected GDP rate of 3.2% in 2018.
CDB's Economic Director, Dr. Justin Ram, highlighted the importance of Guyana's Sovereign Wealth Fund in managing its finances attained from the oil and gas sector.
The revenues that are received from oil and gas can be windfall. There can be a lot of money coming from oil and gas. It is important that governments spend those monies wisely. What do I mean by that? That the resources that are coming from oil and gas should be used to build up other assets in the economy. That is to say, build up the human capital, ensure that the population is well educated, build up infrastructure so that that can support economic growth after the oil and gas has been depleted, and also to ensure that social capital, that fabric that keeps everyone together, is well maintained. Because after the oil and gas has been depleted, it is those assets that will be the mainstay of the economy.
It is important to avoid the pitfalls of the so-called Dutch disease as Guyana moves forward with the oil and gas sector, Dr. Ram added.
The Dutch disease is a phenomena, and I should say this was a phenomena that was first explored by an economist, a well-known economist called Dudley Sayers, when he looked at the mechanism of the open petroleum economy in neighboring Venezuela back in the 1950s. And what he discovered that when oil and gas revenues come into the government coffers, there's so much money that unions that are operating in the oil and gas sector lobby for higher wages. Those higher wages mean that there now is inflation in the economy. And then unions and workers in other parts of the economy start to lobby for even higher wages as well. What does that mean? Is that over time, other sectors of the economy become uncompetitive because they have higher costs because of wages. Yeah? So you really want to have a situation whereby the government is not spending all of the revenues coming from oil and gas, but in fact what we call sterilization of those resources by putting them in a sovereign wealth fund.
The CDB director explained that Guyana's oil and gas sector will benefit not only the country, but the entire region.
More energy could mean reduced energy costs for our economies. And as you know, energy costs for most of the region has been too high, and that has led to a negative impact on our overall levels of competitiveness. So I think that these new energy resources could be a bounty not only for Guyana, but for the entire region, to assist the region in becoming a lot more competitive through lower energy costs.
From St. Michael's, Barbados, at the CDB's headquarters, Paul McAdam for InfoHub.
Residents of the Upper Takatu Upper Essequibo region will now benefit from improved access to justice with the opening of the Rupununi Magisterial District Court Office and courts at Aishalton, Anai and Karasabai. Here is Stacey again.
Speaking at the opening of the Rupununi Magisterial District Court Office at Lethem last Friday, President David Granger emphasized that access to justice is integral to equality. The head of state said that access to justice is central to the democratic character of the state, which is guaranteed by the Constitution.
Access to justice equally is a public good and must be available to everyone. Access to justice is a fundamental and a foundational principle of the rule of law.
In this vein, Minister of Communities Ronald Bulkan assured those gathered that the opening of the District Court Office brings the administration one step closer to bridging the gap between coastland and hinterland.
The commissioning today of the two new magisterial districts that we've heard about would benefit persons down south as well as up north. Similarly, a resident of Taushida, for example, would not have to contend with the additional 3 hours commute to Lethem, as they would be served by the Karasabai magistracy. The same would be for someone living in Yurong Paru, which is the western end of the South Pacaraimas and just across the mountain from Monkey Mountain.
Acting Chancellor of the Judiciary, Justice Yonit Cummings Edwards, highlighted the numerous challenges in the region as it relates to the dispensation of justice, which will now be alleviated.
Before, when Guyana Airways was in operation in areas like Monkey Mountain, the magistrate will come in on the flight, and 30 minutes before the flight goes back, within that period, he or she will hold court and they go back to Georgetown. Could that be justice in the circumstances? If they didn't get that flight to go back out, they will have to stay until whenever another plane will come in. And persons, it wasn't only on the magistrate side. Justice is not one-sided. Justice has to be for both sides. Residents of the region, persons coming all the way from Karasabai or even Aishalton, most of the time the court will be held here in Lethem, and they will have to travel sometimes 2 days just to get to court.
Residents will also benefit from the services of a resident magistrate, Justice Alan Wilson, who said that there are no more excuses for delays in the dispensation of justice within the district.
Acting Chief Justice Roxanne George Wilshire clarified that the backlog of cases has been reduced significantly from the reported 10,000.
New Ombudsman retired Justice Winston Patterson said today that the office has been able to complete a number of matters, including the backlog of complaints left following the sudden passing of Justice Winston Moore.
We have been able to be successful in our attempts because we were doing the so-called backlog matters simultaneously as we are dealing with the current matters. Because if we do not do it that way, then the current matters will sooner or later become backlog.
So far, the Ombudsman Office has seen a total of 112 complaints, which include 25 for this new year. Although the office deals only with matters regarding government agencies, other forms of complaints are heard and referred to the relevant places. Even so, Justice Patterson said Guyanese are better off there.
There are only two agencies, so to speak, persons can have redress. That is through the courts and through the Ombudsman's office. The court system, entails finance, so to speak. The Ombudsman's office is faster and no fees involved. So that is a plus. And one would tell the other, and the persons would come here on a very regular basis from all parts of the country.
The office is, however, not permitted to deal with matters that are engaging in the court. Out of the 112 matters, 48 were out of its jurisdiction. Alexis Rodney for InfoHub.
Acting Chief Justice Roxanne George Wilshire clarified that the backlog of cases has been reduced significantly from the reported 10,000.
Definitely not 10,000 backlog cases. We have in the system about 4,500, 5,000 cases maximum. And when I say maximum, I'm including divorces, civil trial matters, full court matters. And I do not consider them to be backlog cases as such anymore. I would prefer to classify them as old rules cases.
The Acting Chief Justice explained that the High Court is now operating under a system known as the Civil Procedures Rules, which was introduced on February 6, 2017. Therefore, cases filed prior to that date are being classified by Justice George Wilshire as old rules matters.
Yes, there are a number of them that would be what we call live matters, in the sense that they are matters that will go to trial unless the parties decide to settle. But we also have a number of matters which require a judge to consider that have not been active. They're not active matters. They will not be matters that will be going to trial. But under the old rules, or old High Court rules, a judge must adjudicate.
She informed that there are approximately 1,500 matters before the court that require trials or a full hearing. The remaining, from estimation, will have to be passed through the court for those matters to be formally closed. According to the Acting Chief Justice, the judges have been working assiduously to reduce the backlog and matters that come under the old High Court rules. Under the Civil Procedures Rules or New Rules system, there are fixed date and statement of claim matters. For 2017, 2,063 fixed date applications were filed, and of that amount, 1,452 were completed. 440 statement of claim matters were filed, of which 54 were completed. Thus far, for 2018, 214 fixed date applications were filed, with 95 completed, and 37 statement of claim matters filed and 4 completed. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
In our next report, Gaisuco's acting CEO, Paul Bim, indicated that redundant workers due to Gaisuco's reorganization will soon begin contractual work with the corporation.
Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Sugar Corporation, Paul Bim, says the reorganized Gaisuco is soon to engage some redundant workers on a contractual basis.
There's only one that I know of to date. It's actually at Albion. Some of the severed workers at Skell and maybe not from Rosehall, from Skeldon. They're looking to form themselves to actually do planting for us, planting of the canes. So they're setting themselves up, and they'll be a contractor who will be managing the whole thing. And hopefully that's going to come to fruition by next week. We're hoping that will happen.
With severance pay settled, BIM also says the corporation is looking forward to engaging the former workers on a contractual basis. The acting CEO says that the workers should take full advantage of the opportunities provided through the Alternative Livelihood Program.
With the Alternative Livelihoods Program that we are actually running, the issue of employees getting themselves into carrying out some of the contracting work that we have, hopefully that's going to be really get going fairly soon, now that the severance payment issue has been settled.
Following the Commission of Inquiry, the government has decided to reorganize the Sugar Corporation, which is heavily dependent on subsidies. This move will result in the disposal of 4 of the 7 estates. Those which are to be retained are Blairmont in the West Bank Berbice, Albion in East Berbice, and the Iflut estate in West Demerara. For InfoHub, Stefan Gabriel.
A 5-day training program to guide prison officers on identifying and caring for vulnerable prisoners was officially launched. Stefan Gabriel has the details.
The Handling Vulnerable Prisoners Training Program, introduced by the United Kingdom to help officers of the prison service identify and care for vulnerable prisoners, began today. Acting British High Commissioner Ron Rimmer.
It is a pleasure to be here this morning to mark the beginning of the UK-funded training, which is designed to help officers of the prison service and some members of the police force become better equipped to handle vulnerable prisoners.
The initiative was commended by Acting Director of Prisons, Gladwin Samuels.
Today, I see this training as a step in the right direction in order for us to be better equipped to identify those persons with special needs, those persons who are deemed vulnerable, so that they can be adequately catered for.
Also present was the Minister of Public Security, Kemraj Ramjatan, who noted that the program is vital to creating a suitable environment in which to care for these persons.
When you cut across one standard treatment for all prisoners, you are going to have adverse effects on those who require the special treatment. The best that could be done is that at least the training of officers to take care of these vulnerable prisoners is especially important, especially in the context of in the same area where they are housed with the ordinary, regular prisoner.
Director of Create Better Minds, a mental health and disability organization, Caroline Ravello, and United Kingdom consultant, Michael Hamilton, will be the facilitators of the 5-day program. For InfoHub, Stefan Gabriel.
Ronetta LaFleur was on site as Border Street rehabilitation works commenced. Here's more.
Much anticipated rehabilitation works on Border Street commenced today.
The project, which is a collaboration between the Ministry of Public Infrastructure and the Mayor and City Council, will see the street transformed into an asphaltic concrete structure. Clerk of Works at the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Shemroy Skeffers.
The work entitles placing and compacting a 4-inch crusher onto the existing surface, which entitles 2-inch asphaltic concrete finish surface.
The works, which are being undertaken by the Ministry's Special Projects Unit, should have been completed during 2017. Skeffers explained the reason for the delays.
Some of the delays were we were waiting on town council and so forth to get the drainage and stuff. Also the weather was part of that also. And we will be rehabilitating the whole stretch of the road from Regent Street to North Road.
Approximately $12 million is being expended on the project, which is expected to be completed by next week.
From Border Street, Georgetown, I am Ronetta LaFleur reporting for InfoHub.
Alexis is back. She informed us about the construction of single elevated housing units, which is well underway at Underneming on the west bank of Demerara.
Media operatives were afforded the opportunity to have a first-hand glimpse of the construction works of 10 units ongoing at the site. Project engineer Darren McKinnon outlined the details.
Approximately 670 square feet of livable space that we'll have in here. We're using material used are reinforced concrete. We're using some timber for the floor, and for the roof we're using our zinc material as such. Given that it's concrete structure we're doing, we're making sure that for the beneficiaries of these buildings, we do it in a way that We do all our testing for our materials to make sure that everything is to specification. Our concrete must be over 300 psi and such. Even the placement of the building we take into consideration.
According to CEO Leland Saul, this project is being undertaken by 4 contractors and should be completed in mid-April, while the construction of 9 flat 2- and 3-bedroom units will commence in 2 weeks.
In 2018, CHMP will be delivering 247 housing units across the country, here at the Neiman, Bath Experiment, Perseverance, and Cummins Lodge.
The Ministry of Communities, Central Housing and Planning Authority's Housing Solution and Beyond project has expanded to various developing housing areas across the country. Alexis Rodney for InfoHub.
And finally, in our recap for the week, the Ministry of Social Protection, in collaboration with the Ministry of Public Health, Maternal Child Health Unit, and the National Library, launched a national reading program at the East La Penitence Health Center. Crystal Stull has the details.
The collaborative effort was facilitated by the Ministry of Social Protection, the Maternal Child Health Unit, and the National Library. Minister of Social Protection Amna Ali said she is proud of the initiative since it will lay the foundation to enable development in children.
It is imperative for me to mention that these young babies present here are our link to a better Guyana. They are our link to a brighter future. And if we as a nation are to realize the dreams of becoming an educated nation, we must ensure that we invest in our valuable human resources, as young as they might be.
The minister encouraged parents and guardians to make full use of the program to guarantee educational growth in their children.
It is of the utmost importance for parents or guardian to understand that you are their information superhighway from birth to 5 years. You have the strongest influence over them, and reading to your toddler is powerful. Parents, you must be integrally involved in the development of your children.
Crystal Stahl for InfoHub.
Thanks for watching. Remember to connect with us 24/7 on our website and social media. Goodbye.
The future of Guyana has never looked better. Our nation is on the cusp of a development program like never seen before. While Guyana is now emerging as an energy giant through the discovery of massive reserves of oil and natural gas, it is your government's intention that the huge benefits emerging from this will go where it matters most, to you, the people of this beloved country. There is a surge of confidence in the way Guyana is governed once again, and the level of investor interest is unprecedented. Guyana is poised to become the breadbasket of the region, and the pace at which this nation will grow through prudent fiscal management will be nothing short of impressive. But more than anything else will be the way every Guyanese, regardless of color, class, or creed, becomes a part of this historic period of national transformation, sharing in the wealth and well-being of it all as one Guyana.